Coming up next, 10 more basic fragrance terms and terminology that you need to know to enhance your fragrance journey, so stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody, to Joel the Nose, and here I am again, continuing with my series of basic fragrance terms that you need to know as a fragrance lover. And again, for a lot of you, these are going to be very basic terms that you already know. So it's always good if you just want to continue watching as a refresher. And for those of you who are new to the fragrance journey, I hope this is valuable for you because you're learning the definitions of some basic terms that are extremely important. So let's get right into this. I'm using a little tool today where I can write so you can see the words in case you have trouble understanding. I like being a little bit more visual like that. And my mom was a teacher for 30 years, so maybe that's part of it. My prior video, I did my top 10, or the first 10, not necessarily a top 10, first 10 words. Now I'm gonna go 11 through 20. So now we're gonna have 20 basic terms if you watch both videos. And this next word is synthetic. Synthetics, and I'm writing this down here so you can see it. Synthetic, all right? Synthetic. What are they? Synthetics simply refer to the materials in a fragrance, such as, for example, maybe Bleu de Chanel, or maybe a niche perfume from Mas Milano like Petra. And synthetic materials are ones that are created essentially in a laboratory, right? So rather than having natural, for example, smelling cedar wood or vanilla, I'll give you an example. Vanilla extract is a very expensive material that occurs naturally. If you want to reproduce it at a cheaper and more mass scale, a lot of fragrance companies will use something called vanillin, which is a synthetic. They're not bad or worse. Everyone, kind of has different opinions. Every fragrance company out there, from your most high niche to your lowest designer cheapy fragrance, uses synthetics. Again, they can help enhance projection. They can help enhance longevity. That's why they're typically used by a quality house. Because if you use 100% all natural materials, and there are some fragrance companies that do that, because of that, they're not going to last long. You're going to get maybe 2, 3, 4 hours max on your skin. Maybe a little bit longer, but typically that's how long a natural material will last on your skin. Synthetics are going to stretch out your wearability. All right? So that's synthetic. Let's go now to, that was number 11. Let's go to number 12. And this coincides with synthetic, and those are natural materials. I'm not going to write the word natural. Well, actually I will. Natural. So natural materials, just like I explained, I'll give you the example of vanilla. Vanilla extract, you can buy it for cooking. It's very similar. They make that for perfumery, which is one of the oldest and most common materials for fragrance making. And I've already really kind of explained the difference, so I'm not going to go over it again, but then you have vanillin, which is a synthetic. Naturals typically are going to be, they're going to react more with your skin because they are natural. They're going to react more with the oils of your skin in a way that are different than synthetics. Synthetics are more controlled. Naturals may smell completely different depending on the person's skin they are on, much more so in a wide variety than synthetics, which are going to be a little bit more consistent. And again, they're not going to last as long, but they give you more richness and more fullness. And typically, if you look out there, most people prefer naturals. But again, I personally prefer what is a fragrance that's going to be mostly naturals, maybe 70 to 80% naturals, and maybe 20% or so synthetic materials. That's just my personal preference. All right, let's go on. That was what, number 12. Let's go to number 13, and that is going to be the word unisex. And I'm writing it down again just to make it easier. I hope you guys can read my writing. Unisex. Unisex is typically going to refer to any fragrance that can be worn by a male or female, a man or a woman. Almost all niche fragrances, typically, most of them on the market are going to be unisex. And if you talk to, say, for example, a master, expert in the world of perfumery, like Veronique Gabai, who is head of Estee Lauder's fragrance division for over 10 years. When she describes her fragrances, she doesn't even call it unisex. She just calls them perfume. And the perfumes can be worn by anybody. They're not created for one person or another. And you're seeing a trend back to that. For a long time, designer fragrances typically made one for man or woman. Like, you know, Acqua di Gio was man. And then maybe they'll have Estee Lauder Beautiful for women. The niche houses typically have never done that. And you're even seeing designer fragrances now going more to this unisex. Because every fragrance or perfume, when you put it on your skin, it's going to act differently. Typically, if it's on a man, it's going to react with his skins in a little bit more masculine way versus a female in a feminine way. So the same fragrance could smell completely different on our man or woman. That's all that unisex is. And again, that is more of a trend as you're seeing now in culture, dealing less with gender roles. You're seeing unisex fragrances becoming much more popular as they always have been with the niche world. All right, next, this is a word that is hard to pronounce for a lot of people and to spell. And that is Ciage, right? It looks like Sillage. A lot of people, I think when I first saw it, I thought it was, oh, what is Sillage? Ciage. Ciage simply refers to the projection around your body. So some people call it projection. This word is kind of interchangeable. I don't think, you know, either one is wrong. You can say either one. Ciage, again, Ciage versus, and let me just write that down, how it's phonetically spelled. Ciage. So if you were to phonetically spell under the word Ciage, you can put Ciage. So that is again going to refer to how the fragrance evaporates and projects off your skin so that people are smelling it around you. And basically the same, you know, each fragrance is going to be different. It's going to react differently with you. You got to try it out. But when you hear Ciage, that is what they're referring to, the projection around your body. And this leads into my next term, okay, which is going to be, I guess, similar. It's going to be scent trail. The scent trail is going to be what flows behind you, or actually trails behind you as you walk. So as you're walking, right, the Ciage is going to be, so if I'm walking this way, like this, okay, the Ciage, right, is your projection, Ciage, around your body. And as you're walking and as you're causing wind to glow and you're causing momentum, you're going to leave a trail behind you. That scent trail is hopefully what people will smell, maybe even walk through, walk behind, and then kind of, you know, notice you. And it's good to have a scent trail because like anything else, that's part of, you know, what you are projecting off with your fragrance. So scent trail is kind of a variation or a subset of what your Ciage is. If you don't have much Ciage, you're probably not going to have a scent trail behind you. All right, next. Next term, and this is going to be, I guess, my 15th term. This is going to be Drydown. And I didn't write scent down, but Drydown. All right? Drydown simply refers to, as a fragrance, I talked about in my first video, goes through its progression of top notes, middle or heart notes, and base notes. That's called the Drydown. So you start with an initial smell that evaporates quickly, the top notes. Then you go into the heart notes, which is the heart or the core of the fragrance. That's part of the Drydown. Think of it almost like a chart. Think of it like, actually, like this. I'll kind of give you a little, think of it like that arrow, where when you put the fragrance on the top notes, then you have your heart notes, and then you go down to your base notes. And that would be the Drydown. Okay, so when you hear someone talking about the Drydown, that's all it is referring to how the fragrance wears on your skin throughout the day and how it changes smells and compositions and everything. Okay, next is going to be accord. So I'm going to write this down, accord. Now this refers to, very much like music, okay, accord. Accord, you have chords in music, which are basically 2 or 3 notes or strings that are played together, which produce a different sound. So you can maybe play an A and a G string and a D string, and it'll combine to form a chord, which is a completely different sound from those 3. It's the same in fragrance. Perfumers are like musical composers, and they compose fragrance notes to make different smells. So an accord is 2 or more notes, okay, that combine to create a new smell. That's simply it. 2 or more notes that combine. So you can create, let's just say you combine cedar and vanilla, and as they mix together, they create a different smell. That's all it is. So when you hear an accord or a fragrance accord, that's what it's referring to, is how different notes combine to give you a different and totally unique smell. All right, next is longevity. Longevity, I think, is a relatively simple term and easy, I think, for most people to understand, but let's talk about it for a second. Longevity. Longevity goes to how many people rate or a fragrance as to whether they think it's a quality fragrance. I don't necessarily do that because I have plenty of quality fragrances, especially eau de toilettes, EDTs, that are going to evaporate more quickly because they don't have as many base notes, and they're going to, maybe only last 4 or 5 hours. But a lot of people want long longevity. A long longevity fragrance is typically going to be something that has more base notes, because base notes evaporate, if you go back at my old video, more slowly in your skin. So they unfold more slowly, they last longer. So typically a fragrance with a lot of base notes is going to have more longevity. Also synthetic materials can enhance longevity and projection, so they can make a fragrance last longer. And you'll see plenty of fragrances on the market now that last 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 plus hours. I have some in my collection. So, if that's what you're looking for and that's important to you, longevity is referring to how long it stays on your skin and evaporates. All right, next, let's go to projection. And again, this is similar to, I guess, if you really want to talk about it, it's really similar to Siage. I talked about it earlier, but some people refer to it differently, so I wanted to at least talk about the two different terms. I use them interchangeably. Projection to me is something, how far, this is the small difference that I personally think. Projection refers to how far off your skin, okay, the fragrance extends, all right? So it could be 6 inches, say, it could be 12 inches, it could be 18, it could be, 2 feet, 3 feet. Pure distance away from your body is what I consider projection. Ciage to me is basically all around your body. So it's basically the almost scent dome that is all around your body, front, back. So as you're turning, you're smelling. So it kind of envelops you. Projection is the outer limit of the Ciage. The Ciage is really everything that surrounds you. So that's kind of how I differentiate it. Again, there's really necessarily no right or wrong there, but that's how I look at it. I think it's a good way to look at it. All right, down to 2 more terms. So this would be number 19, and this is the word nose, which of course is important to me because I call myself my nickname JoelTheNose for my YouTube channel. Nose obviously refers to the nose. Nose is a slang term in the perfume industry for the perfumer or the person who literally makes the perfume. So someone like Alberto Marias, who did Acqua di Gio. You could talk about Cecile Zarokian, who did Petra for Masque Milano. You could be talking about Jean-Claude Elena, who did Terra di Hermes for Hermes. These are legendary, very famous noses. That's all that's referred to. It's not a bad thing. Some people think, oh, they call them the nose. That's a slang term. They have a big nose or what. No, it's not what it means. When somebody's called the nose, it means they're a perfumer or they're somebody that has a really good nose, but typically, again, a nose is the perfumer. And lastly, and this is maybe the most difficult term, I think, to identify, and this is, what is niche? What are niche perfumes? Again, such as Masque Milano's Petra versus a designer fragrance from Chanel, Bleu de Chanel. Okay, so you have these two very, right? You think, they're similar, right? They're just fragrances. This is, again, a point that many people disagree on and think different things as far as what the definition is. There's a couple core definitions for me that make up what is a niche fragrance. A, how it's marketed. Some people look at it strictly as how it's marketed. So Bleu de Chanel, a designer fragrance, is marketed through retail stores. It could be Macy's, it could be Nordstrom's, it could be Ulta, it could be Sephora, wherever. Any department store, it's marketed. Probably 70–80% of the cost of the bottle for them, or the cost of the fragrance that you're paying, is directly for marketing because they have a ton of marketing expenses. And versus Petra from Mas Milano is marketed almost exclusively through the perfume company or the fragrance house's website, through direct distribution, maybe through boutiques like Osme Perfumery in Miami. So they're not spending money in advertising. You'll see ads for Bleu de Chanel, right? You'll see TV ads, famous celebrities, maybe Johnny Depp, who obviously, does Sauvage. You'll see that on the designer side. Niche side, you don't have that. Now, there are some houses that are kind of gray area that kind of go into a combination, but I'm talking, your basic difference. Second definition for me to niche, and this is going to be maybe some of you are not going to like or you may disagree, is typically it's going to be a higher quality because they have to spend a lot less money on marketing and they can put that money into the juice. Remember juice? Juice refers to the actual perfume liquid. So they're going to spend more money on the natural materials, the sources, and the creativity. They're also free because they're typically independent fragrance houses to do what they want. So they're going to be more artisanal, more unique, more individual, give you more of a statement of your personality than maybe typically something that's going to be more mass marketed and smell good for the masses, but not necessarily for the individual. So third definition, typically a fragrance house that's a niche house, all they do is going to be fragrances, or that is their main component. Maybe they have an offshoot, maybe they do some, like skincare stuff, but it's predominantly going to be their main product is fragrance versus Chanel, right? Chanel fragrance is an afterthought for their fragrances. They smell, their main items are high-end luxury clothing, right? They do home furnishings. You think about it, Dior, Tom Ford. Those are designer clothes houses that have fragrances. Niche houses like Mas Milano, Peccato Original, Parfums de Marly, Montal, Amouage. These are fragrance houses, okay? That's what they do. So that's, for me, the third kind of definition under niche that separates it from designer. And I know it's been a lot, but I hope you guys found this very useful. Again, 10 more definitions. I've now done 20. If you guys want me to continue to do more, I'll continue the series. But again, thank you so much for watching me. Thank you for supporting me. Again, this is JoelTheNose. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. And also, real quick, if you haven't followed my Instagram, please go ahead and do that. Let me write that here, because my Instagram, I do scent of the day, and I do all kinds of cool pictures. And I'm just going to write it here. It's Joel Adrian Brown. I do have a JoelTheNose, but I don't really use it. I use this one much more. So there it is. Actually, let me give you the @ sign. That @ sign was terrible that I just drew, but that's my Instagram, @Joel Adrian Brown. Go ahead and take a follow over there if you guys can, because again, I really want to add more content on there. I can add shorter content, sometimes quick reviews, little things that I can't do on YouTube, and I'm trying to, make that a little bit more expanded for everybody. So thank you guys for watching again, and I hope you're having a great one. Peace and love to everybody.